Speaker, the biggest barrier to service delivery is out-of-pocket payment. A person will be ill and they need money to go and buy a book, they need money to do an X-ray, they need money to do an MRI scan, and all this may cost way beyond 1,000. And for a family of 10, if 10 people get sick 10 times in a month, they require more than 5,000. Madam Speaker, with an average salary of 4,000, 5,000, it means that there's a barrier to health service delivery. This is the reason why we say prepay a small amount, say 30 kwacha or 1% of your salary, and ensure that within that, your spouse, your 10 children will access health services without money in your pocket. And Madam Speaker, the infrastructure exists within the Ministry of Health to provide health services. If you look at the poor and the vulnerable that are in Imusho, Madam Speaker, those that are in Kalavo, there will be a facility, a health center there. And if these are picked out through the existing mechanisms in government as vulnerable and poor and registered on NIMA, the way we register the elderly through our facilities, Madam Speaker, we will be able to ensure these access health services, and Zambia will retain focus on attaining universal health coverage. Madam Speaker, I want to emphasize that while we played midwife to the birth of NIMA, let us not incinerate it to ashes through strategic misalignments. Madam Speaker, health is apolitical, and we should all agree across the political aisle to move towards sustainable development through addressing one key determinant of development, a healthy population. That can only be attained if we invest adequately in a health system. A healthcare financing mechanism is a core component of a health system, and we must immediately address the strategic misalignment of NIMA from labor to health. We are not looking at the health of workers. We are looking at the health of people who are not working, those who are working, those who have retired, those who are yet to be born, and that's the reason why we must ensure that our health system covers everyone in the sector. Madam Speaker, the issue of accelerating the inclusion of the vulnerable and the poor on NIMA will be addressed just through that. We know that today, if you walk into a facility and you're above 65, you can go to the NIMA desk and they will give you a NIMA certificate, and you'll be able to access health services. We know that the person out there who is not in formal employment can pay, say, minimum of 30 kwacha and will be on NIMA. But the person who is in the rural area there needs to quickly get on board, and there's a facility that is there that can be used. Madam Speaker, finally, strategic coordination with ZAMSA would ensure that NIMA contributes to the drug fund so that the drug fund is populated, is funded, and there will be no drug outages. All these laboratories that today work with the Ministry of Health receive money through NIMA, and they would ensure that access to laboratory services is enhanced. Private facilities today, Madam Speaker, can work closely with NIMA and ensure universal health coverage. Madam Speaker, I support this motion.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Lukulu East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity also to add my voice to this very important subject matter on the floor of the House, in particular moved by the Honourable Member for Nkana, and the Honourable Member for Kamfinsa, and supported by the Honourable Member for Nkana. Basically, the motion on the floor is a private member's motion that is urging government to actualize provision of health services to the poor and the vulnerable. Madam Speaker, it is the responsibility of any government worldwide to provide for the health of its citizens without discrimination whatsoever. And if you listen very carefully to the debate of all honourable members of parliament, that is the point of the case that they are making, and for our jurisdiction, urging NIMA to move very quickly by taking the interest of the poor and the vulnerable. Madam Speaker, I will go my debate because of time by just going point by point. First and foremost, I want everybody to realize that in this country, Right through from independence up to this very day, primary health care services are free. So in other words, if any one of us breaks his leg right here, develops malaria or a headache, you can literally walk in any direction as long as you go to a public health facility at primary care level, up to first level hospital, you'll be treated free of any cost. That's the first point I want everybody to make. Secondly, it is also important to notice that all our health facilities in this country, and my colleague there, the immediate former Minister of Health, agrees with me, that there are guidelines which were issued to all our facilities to ensure that the vulnerable, the disabled, and those that are judged to be unable to the poor through the social workers' offices by way of a criteria my colleague here has mentioned also, are supposed to be exempted from any form of payment. So in other words, there is no debate whatsoever to the fact that it is imperative for any administration to provide health services without regard to any discrimination on the basis of your status in society. And this has been subsisting since independence. However, there was a shift in 2018, and we must commend our colleague who brought the National Health Insurance Act number 2 of 2018, known as NEMA today, which makes it mandatory, by the way, honorable members, for everyone except those who are above 18 to be on NEMA, including all of us here. We are all supposed to be NEMA registered. So whether you are vulnerable, you are poor, you are disabled, you are a member of parliament, you are all supposed to be on NEMA. What is the effect of that? The effect of that, or primarily the aim, was to ensure that there is universal access to health care for everyone. Universal health care means leaving no one behind, including the very poor and vulnerable, which we are talking about. Honorable members, when it comes to government, when you take into consideration what I've mentioned here, the question that begs an answer is, has the government actualized the provision of health services to the poor and the vulnerable? The answer is yes. Why? Because of the very fact that realization was what led to the promulgation of the NEMA Act. Number two, is this current administration administering NEMA? The answer is yes. What should be at play, what I gather here, the argument is on whether the implementation of NEMA is smooth or not. What we should be talking about, which everyone else has been belaboring here, is the structural rigidities that exist in the implementation of the NEMA law. Structural rigidities, in other words, the challenges, the bottlenecks, the barriers which NEMA is currently facing in implementing this very act. That is the only debate which we should be talking about. Okay, I have heard here members belaboring the point that those of our friends who are in far-off places, like Shangombo, like Imusho, those who are the vulnerables, and so on and so forth. That does not mean that the government has not taken their interests at heart. What it simply means is that the NEMA Act, by the way, it's only 2018, and 2019 there was COVID, the truth be told. So basically the strict implementation of this was somewhere around 20 and 2021. And the rollout in registering the poor is currently going on. You are aware about that. The rollout in registering the far, the hard to reach places is currently going on. This requires a lot of time and it's going on. I support the idea of the fact that what we should be talking about is how we can strengthen the NEMA Act to be able to ensure that more of our facilities in the rural areas are actually being accredited. How we can ensure that a lot of our people who are poor are actually being registered. This is ongoing. It doesn't mean that the government has not realized that. We have. That's why the legal environment is correct. NEMA. Today we all say it's a good piece of law, but of course it has these challenges. Let's work at improving them. Lastly, it has been said that maybe NEMA is not correctly domiciled under the Ministry of Labor. Yes. All I can say to this is that you see the concept of one government, one cabinet. It doesn't really matter where the particular corporate body is located, as long as cabinet itself and an administration itself realize, honorable members, I'll give you my honest opinion. First of all, health financing is a health systems issue. It talks about access, it talks about health workers, it talks about infrastructure, and the right place to do these things is basically under the Ministry of Health. Okay? Except the point I'm making, it doesn't really matter according to each administration, the way they see fit. Okay? Having said that,
Honorable members, let's not debate while seated.
having said that, honorable members, as I conclude, perhaps, honorable members, the government is desirous and continues to take care of its poor citizens, continues to take care of the vulnerable, as I have shown you all. And this is the point the two young Turks of Kitwe are making. And there's no argument or debate about that. Okay? There's no argument or debate about that. At the same time, it is within their mandate, honorable members, to remind government to do what it's already doing. So all they are doing is reminding us to do what we are already doing. And there's nothing wrong with that. So on that basis and that basis alone, we urge you to continue reminding us. It's like saying we urge this government to provide farmer input support. But when we already have FISIP already happening. Okay, so that is what is happening. So on that basis, honorable members, it's fairly within your mandate as legislators to provide oversight, to represent your people by reminding us to do what we are already doing so well. With that, I support. Thank you.
Thank you. The honorable member for Lumezi.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, permit me to appreciate the mover and the seconder of the motion and all fellow members that have spoken to this healthy debate. Madam Speaker, indeed, we've had people in this House before us that when their term of office came to an end, were unable to get medicine. It's not only a debate for the rich or for the poor, even members from here. History, Madam Speaker, has shown us that there are some people that have said, as Republican Vice President, the only advantage they've had is a 21-gun salute. When they die, they can't buy medicine. History has shown, Madam Speaker, through your office, that some members, through your mercy, you provided lunch for them, and they couldn't afford to buy medicine beyond the lifespan of politics and their stay in this House. Madam Speaker, history will show that last year, Honorable Chiwe Foron had moved a motion, something to do with witchcraft. To discourage.
Honorable member, can we please be
Yes, Madam Speaker.
in line with the motion?
Yes, I am in line with it, Madam Speaker. Some people in rural setups, though Ron is not a rural setup like ours, because of not having access to such services, end up practicing what Honorable Member for Ron was discouraging. This August House, sometime last year, it was a good debate. I remember all laughing out loud. So, to agree with the movers that I equally agree with Honorable from Babala, Honorable Munsanje, Madam Speaker, that it must go back to the Ministry of Health. Because Honorable for Chimwemwe here had talked of investments. NIMA should have its own investments. Where it is right now, at Labour, they've got their own investment policy. The money that will be contributed towards this at Ministry of Health, Madam Speaker, will be speaking to health. Whilst as it is now, it could be speaking to Labour. Of course, not making reference to the Labour word, but the workmanship of the Zambian people. So the people of Lumezi, Madam Speaker, are less privileged when it comes to these hospitals being in a proximity of 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers. People travel using motorbikes to access a healthy facility, using a motorbike, ox carts, 50, 60 kilometers, then they don't even have money to be provided with a service at the hospital. The other rigidity, Madam Speaker, that maybe we should be looking at is the registration process. If we go to UTH now, there are some people that have been there 4 days just trying to be registered on NIMA. That process should be something that should be done within 2-3 minutes, and someone should be registered on NIMA, because some people have abandoned that process, either as a result of death, they are on a queue to be registered, that they die, or either out of frustrations, you can't be going to one place like a pendulum, and you still can't be registered in good time. Those are the rigidities that I think we can address. But so long it is at labor, Madam Speaker, I wish to see a day where one of us will move that motion so that it goes to health. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I appreciate the mover, the seconder, and all members that have spoken to this healthy debate. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. This is a non-controversial motion. Allow me to call upon the only female member of parliament who has indicated. Then thereafter, we are going to invite the Minister of Green Economy to respond. The honorable member for Lundazi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving the people of Lundazi to debate on this non-controversial motion. Firstly, I would want to appreciate the mover and the seconder, and all the people who have debated. I want to say that I adopt all those debates as my own. Madam Speaker, most of the views have come from the medical or from the social. I want to talk about the psychological challenge that affects all of us, especially if we cannot afford to find out what is causing our relatives to be sick or to die. What sends most of the people to an early grave, Madam Speaker, is desperation. In case you have an ailment and you go to the hospital, they tell you to go and do certain tests and you cannot afford. Depression comes in to the people who are around you, and at the end of the day, they'll even say the one who was sick has survived, but the people who are taking care of that person are the ones who have gone. Madam Speaker, no one wants to see their loved ones in a desperate situation, especially where health is concerned. The issue which this motion is trying to cure is really to level all of us. There is a saying which says the poor will always be around you. If we come up with a good policy, or we change, or even just adjust to what was left out, it can be able to cure this challenge which we have, where there is a gap. Coming from a constituency in Lundazi, in a rural area, I receive phone calls. We have a prescription. We need medication. If this adjustment of this policy can be able to cure that challenge, Madam Speaker, I fully support it. We have people who have traveled from Lundazi, from Lumezi, from Chasefu, from Chama. They have come to Lusaka. And most of the members of parliament who are coming, especially from Eastern Province, they are told of the challenges that they are facing. Sometimes with our little resources, we are able to assist, but alas, sometimes the monies we do not have. From the time that parliament opened, from the time I was elected, we have always been debating the issue of lack of drugs in the hospital, the issue of lack of reagents in our laboratories. If this can be able to cure some of the challenges, then we fully support. In addition, out of desperation, Some people have gone ahead to even steal just to try and save their child because they have a cancer, which they are failing to attend to. Madam Speaker, as a female member of parliament and knowing that this is non-controversial, I want to appreciate that the New Dawn government can really be able to implement this and take it to the ministry where it is desired. In Mukanire village, there's Mukomba Clinic. In Mwase, there is a clinic, meaning that health facilities are fully decentralized. Hence, Ministry of Labor, I don't even know their office in Lundazi. However, when we talk about decentralization, which the Ministry of Health already has, we can take advantage of that. The poor, we put them on FISIP. The poor, we put them on social cash transfer. It would just be wise that the poor can also come aboard NEMA. Then we can all be leveled and we can all work in peace. The people of Lundazi support this motion and are happy that now we are discussing what really affects a real Zambian. I submit.
Thank you. The Acting Minister of Labor, that is the Minister of Green Economy and Environment, please respond.
Madam Speaker, we wish to acknowledge and appreciate the motion raised by Honorable Kangombe, Member of Parliament for Kamfisa constituency, and seconded by Honorable Mpundu Kana. Government, through the National Insurance Management Authority, NIMA, is in the process of extending non-contributory participation to the poor and the vulnerable, as mandated by Section 16 of the National Health Act No. 2 of 2018. This process requires extensive collaboration with stakeholders, both local and international, in the generation of resources to subsidize the onboarding of the poor and vulnerable who have no contributory capacity to join the scheme. Madam Speaker, the background is that the National Health Insurance Scheme was established by the National Health Insurance Act No. 2 of 2018 and Statutory Instrument No. 63 of 2019 as a compulsory scheme for all Zambian citizens and legal residents to provide sound and reliable health care financing. This was part of government policy aimed at removing financial barriers to accessing health care through the elimination of out-of-pocket payments, which were limiting access to health services, particularly to the poor and the vulnerable. The NHIS is a means of pooling funds by collecting premiums based on one's ability to pay, with exemptions and subsidies for the poor and vulnerable, the elderly, those above 65 years, and the mentally and physically challenged. The collection feed into a single unified national insurance fund that reduces fragmentation in fund collection and management. What's the status now? Since 2019, the NHIS has made the following progress. It has registered 3,296,139 members, of which 2,356,418 are principal members and 939,721 are beneficiaries of principal members as of May 2023. It has paid out a total of 1.5 billion in claims from inception of the scheme. And I must add here, Madam Speaker, that most of this 1.5 billion is in the last 1.5 years. It has accredited 375 facilities countrywide, including all district, provincial, and national referral hospitals. It has provided facilities, it's being provided in private facilities also, including hospitals, clinics, pharmacies, laboratories, and optical centers. What are the key challenges, Madam Speaker? The contributory structure of the scheme, coupled with the national economic structure, exposes the scheme to sustainability risks arising from the following: low-income sector employment, thereby limiting the collection base for the scheme's revenues. I think this was well elaborated by the mover of the motion, who also suggested that the collections be moved from 1% to about 2%. The high informal sector activity with low irregular incomes leading to challenges in the extension of coverage to the informal sector. High poverty levels leading to high dependence on the limited formal sector contributions, and this therefore threatens the solvency and sustainability of the scheme. The above has resulted in the following: low levels of collections to meet the demand for universal health coverage, limited coverage for informal economy members, limited coverage for the poor and vulnerable who need the most health care access. However, it is worth noting that between 2020 and 2022, Madam Speaker, average income claims grew by 2,011% from 2.6 million per month to 70.5 million per month, whilst revenues grew by 83% from 5.6 million per month to 83 million per month. The growth in claims far outweighs the growth in revenues, posing significant risks to the scheme's solvency. To achieve universal health coverage and ensure that no one is left behind, there's need for a deliberate, diversified, robust, and well-coordinated mechanism for onboarding the poor and vulnerable onto the health insurance scheme. Although the purpose of the NHIS is to provide a pro-poor alternative to the out-of-pocket payment system, there are immense financial challenges in registering indigents who are exempt from contributing to the scheme. Finding a financially sustainable solution for subsidizing the exempt groups presents the greatest challenge in achieving universal health coverage. Furthermore, populations affected by conditions requiring frequent access to healthcare services should not be exposed to catastrophic health expenditures, and thus the need for financial risk protection. Madam Speaker, persons exempt from contributions, Section 16 of the NHI Act, persons exempt from contribution, mandates NEMA to provide health insurance on a non-contributory basis to citizens and residents in the following categories: a person with disability who is unable to work, an elderly person above the age of 16, a person classified as poor and vulnerable by the ministry responsible for social welfare, any other person as may be prescribed by the Minister of Labour and Social Security. Currently, Madam Speaker, NEMA has been progressively covering persons above the age of 65, and these fit into those categorized as retirees. The call to extend coverage to the poor and vulnerable is in line with and will augment other government social protection programs for the poor and vulnerable, such as the social cash transfer, the public welfare assistance schemes, food security packs, free education policy. For persons classified as poor and vulnerable, the ministry through NEMA is targeting onboarding households that are currently registered under the social cash transfer program administered by the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services. However, without corresponding subsidization of contributions, NEMA faces heightened risk of insolvency, hence the need for subsidization support from central government or external cooperating partners. What's the progress on extension of coverage to the poor and vulnerable? To guide policy on the extension of coverage, the ministry through NEMA has completed an independent and comprehensive actuarial valuation exercise that is aimed at estimating the financial abilities of extending coverage to the non-contributing poor and vulnerable, estimating the impact on the solvency of NEMA, estimating feasible revenue sources to cover the extension of coverage. To sustainably extend coverage to the poor and vulnerable and sustain the solvency of the scheme, the actuarial evaluation report makes the following key recommendations. 1, the need to review the NEMA contributory rate to generate additional revenues to cover the poor and vulnerable, the need for an annual budget allocation from central government to subsidize the poor and vulnerable, the estimated liability for the 1.1 million poor and vulnerable households. This is representing about 6 million persons identified is about 658 million kwacha per annum. The need to mobilize additional support from cooperating partners to subsidize the poor and vulnerable. Madam Speaker, following the Akiro recommendations, the Ministry of Labor and Social Security has embarked on the following: engagement of the Ministry of Finance and National Planning through the 2024-2026 budget process for consideration of central government allocation for the subsidization of the poor and vulnerable. Engagement of cooperating partners to extend subsidy support, to extend coverage for the poor and vulnerable under the social cash transfer scheme. Active consultation with stakeholders on financing reform options for the scheme to enable the extension of coverage to the poor and vulnerable. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, to actualize the provision of health services to the poor and vulnerable under the NHIS, the ministry through NIMA will implement the above measures and progressively onboard the poor and vulnerable under the social cash transfer program, working closely with the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services beginning in 2024. Furthermore, NIMA's accreditation will include the addition of mini hospitals, zonal clinics, and rural health centers which are close to the poor and vulnerable. Madam Speaker, as stated by many debaters on the floor of the House, indeed, as government, the members of parliament were basically pushing an open door. And it's their duty to move government to do that which is right. We also believe that the act was made in good faith and that what was just lacking, obviously, was implementation. There was very little funding put in this very good scheme. This government will ensure that adequate funding is put in this, in this scheme. Madam Speaker, the Minister of Health under this government is doing a lot. Yes, Madam, I'm winding up. Is doing her utmost best to ensure that this scheme works. The Ministry of Labor, the Ministry of Community, as elaborated by Honorable Kalila, is one cabinet methodically working to ensure that the poor of the poorest are catered for. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Should try as much as possible to stick to time. The honorable member for Kamfinsa, please wind up debate.
Madam Speaker, allow me to begin by thanking everyone that has debated. I think it's important, Madam Speaker, that I place my personal gratitude for the support that this very important motion has received today. I also want to put it on record, Madam Speaker, my gratitude on behalf of the people of Kamfinsa, as well as on behalf of every member of this particular August House, that your office was courteous enough to allow this particular motion to be tabled. Madam Speaker, what are our roles as members of Parliament, even as I conclude? Number one, we need to use our privilege to do what society expects us to do. And that privilege, Madam Speaker, is to design systems, regulations, laws that support those who are not able to support themselves. What happened in 2018 for Parliament to come up with this wonderful piece of legislation is what we're supposed to be doing, Madam Speaker. And I do hope that moving forward, there will be more pieces of legislation that will unite this August House. At a point where we need to be discussing what is good for Sesheke, we should also be discussing what is good for Kamfinsa. And I'm grateful, therefore, Madam Speaker, that this particular motion has been supported widely, because this is the expectation of our people out there. Lastly, Madam Speaker, health financing is a priority that we should all focus on. And I hope that the recommendations that have been put in the remarks by the acting Minister of Labor will actually be tracked in terms of the progress that we'll be making. Because ultimately, Madam Speaker, we want health care for our people. So I want to thank you most sincerely, and I do hope that moving forward, there will be more motions which will be supported. I thank you.
Thank you. I put the question. The question is that this House urges the government to actualize the provision of health services under the National Health Insurance Scheme to the poor and vulnerable. As many as are of that opinion say aye. All the contrary say no. The ayes have it, and the question is resolved in the affirmative. Notice of motion, the Honorable Member for Kaoma Central.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that this House do adopt the report of the Committee on National Security and Foreign Affairs for the second session of the 13th National Assembly laid on the table of the House on 9th June 2023.
Is the motion seconded?
Seconded, Madam Speaker.
Is the motion seconded?
Yes, Madam Speaker, the motion is seconded.
Can we have order? Order. Seconded by the Honorable Member for Kasama Central. The question is that this House do adopt the report of the Committee on National Security and Foreign Affairs. Order. Let me start again. The question is that this House do adopt the report of the Committee on National Security and Foreign Affairs on the review of the administration and operations of the Zambia Police Service for the second session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Friday, 9th June 2023. Any debate? The Honorable Member for Kaoma Central.
Madam Speaker, in accordance with Standing Order number 198, the committee considered one topical issue, namely the review of the administration and operations of the Zambia Police Service. Madam, during this study, the committee interacted with several stakeholders who tendered both written and oral submissions before it. Allow me now to highlight a few of the committee's findings on the premise that honorable members have had the opportunity to read the report and will contribute accordingly. The first issue.
Honorable Member for Kaoma Central. When a member is giving a report, we want as much as possible to get what is in the report. I don't know whether the point of order is so urgent to disturb the Honorable Member for Kaoma Central. What is your point of order?
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm a very sad MP. Very, very sad MP. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Order, honorable members.
Madam Speaker, you directed the Honorable Minister of Finance to bring a deposit slip to this House, bearing 65 million kwacha, which is the subject of conversation. The Honorable Minister has brought a set of documents without a deposit slip for 65 million kwacha, claiming to have put that deposit slip on the table. Madam Speaker, is the Honorable Minister of Finance acting in order to bring documents which are not deposits, a deposit slip for 65 million, and lay on the table pretending to have laid a deposit slip for 65 million in order to mislead this house.
Order. I don't think, honorable member, you are supposed to point at me. Just confirm your space.
Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, is the Honorable Minister in order to mislead this house that he has brought a deposit slip for 65 million kwacha deposited in the bank, when in fact he's just brought documents with one deposit slip for $57,000 and the other transmission copies of money? Is he in order? Madam Speaker, I seek your very serious ruling on this matter. This house cannot be treated in this fashion. Madam Speaker,
Before you sit, can you please cite the breach that has been committed?
Madam Speaker, this is debate.
No, it's a point of order.
Yes, this is debate. I am saying this is debate, and debate is anchored on 65 in its entirety. Truthfulness of both tendered speech and tendered documents.
Honorable member, we've gotten you. I just wanted you to respond by just stating the breach that has been committed,
Absolutely.
not to debate.
I
Because
seek
you've
your serious
already
ruling, Madam Speaker.
stated your point of order. Order, order, honorable members. Order. Order. Honorable members on my left, order. I want to make a ruling. Honorable members, indeed the Minister of Finance or the Acting Minister of Finance brought some documents which were laid on the table. For me, it's very difficult at this moment to make a ruling because I have not yet seen the documents. So I'm going to reserve my ruling so that I study the matter and come to this house at a later stage with an informed ruling. So I'll come to this house later. Order. I'm going to allow the honorable member for Kaoma Central to continue with the debate.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. As the committee was looking at the administration and the operations of the Zambia Police Service, the first thorny issue which came to light was on the state and the condition of police station buildings in the country. Madam Speaker, a number of police stations in the country are in a deplorable state and require immediate refurbishment and extensive maintenance works to be done on them. In addition, the office space at some of these police stations is inadequate to support the current number of officers.
Can we listen to the report in silence?
Especially in administrative roles. Madam Speaker, in view of this challenge, the committee strongly recommends that the government should not only repair or maintain the current infrastructure, but should also construct new police buildings with sufficient space to cater for the current number of units and sections at the police stations. It is a view of the committee that the government should also build police posts to enhance visibility and presence of police officers in the unserviced areas of the country. Madam Speaker, coupled with this problem is the poor state of some of the housing units for police officers, which are seemingly not fit for decent human habitation. Madam, the committee also observes that in some districts, police officers are renting in various residential compounds, a situation which makes it very difficult for quick mobilization in case of emergency operations. In this regard, the committee recommends that the government should construct new housing units for police officers to enable them live in decent houses and operate effectively. Madam Speaker, the committee is also greatly concerned that most police stations in the country have inadequate transport to enable the police to effectively perform administrative and operational activities. Additionally, some areas are situated across water bodies and thus difficult to access. Madam Speaker, the government is therefore urged to provide adequate vehicles and speedboats in the case of areas engulfed by water bodies in order to enhance the administration and operations of the police. Madam Speaker, the committee observes with great concern the inadequate or erratic monthly funding to police stations to sustain operations. It is the view of the committee that this state of affairs has led to the Zambia Police Service to be perceived by the general public as being ineffective and very corrupt. Madam Speaker, the committee therefore recommends that the Zambia Police Service should be adequately funded on a monthly basis up to station level for effective implementation of the operations. Madam Speaker, the committee is greatly concerned that police officers do not get paid settling in allowance, loading and offloading, and vacational allowance, leave allowances whenever the officers were either transferred or were due for vacational leave. The committee recommends that the government should, as a matter of urgency, prioritize and consider paying the various allowances accrued to police officers to enhance their morale. The committee observes that with great concern that the salaries for police officers have relatively remained low compared to other men and women in uniform. Madam, the committee is also concerned that the conditions of service generally for police officers have continued to be poor. Madam Speaker, the committee strongly recommends that the government should take concrete steps to address all issues surrounding the low salaries and poor conditions of service for the police officers if this tag of being corrupt is to be erased from the service. Madam Speaker, the committee is concerned that promotions in the police service are tied to post identification numbers, which are no longer available at police station level to afford the deserving officers promotions. Madam, the committee therefore notes that police officers may be in a different station but possessing a post ID number which is meant for a position in another police station and district. This situation is depriving officers in those stations from being promoted. Further, Madam, the committee notes that the non-promotion of these deserving officers has resulted in loss of morale among police officers. It's common amongst the police to find officers who have served for over 30 years and they are still constable. In this regard, Madam, the committee recommends that the government should review or possibly abolish the post-ID numbers mechanism which are tied to promotions, as it is not serving any purpose whatsoever as expected by police officers. Madam Speaker, the other issue is on the thrift scheme being run by the police. Your committee came across a situation where some police officers coming from very far to come and claim this money were actually tear-gassed by fellow police officers here at headquarters. And yet they came to claim the money that they are contributing every month for the purpose of their welfare. This I think it's an issue which requires to be looked into. Madam, I wish to appeal to the executive to study and implement some of the recommendations contained in the committee's report for the benefit of this country. Let me also appeal to all honorable members of this august House to support the report of the Committee on National Security and Foreign Affairs. In conclusion, Madam, I wish to thank all the stakeholders who appeared before the committee and tendered both written and oral submissions. I also wish to thank you, Madam Speaker, and the Office of the Clerk of the National Assembly for the guidance and support rendered to the committee throughout the session. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you. Does the seconder wish to speak now or later?
Now, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Kasama Central.
Thank you very much. Madam Speaker, I beg to second that this House do adopt the report of the Committee on National Security and Foreign Affairs for the second session of the 13th National Assembly. Madam Speaker, in seconding this motion, allow me to make a few comments. Madam Speaker, there has been inadequate training for police officers. Currently, the situation as it stands, officers only train for 6 months, which is not sufficient. See, these times that we're living in, we're actually coming across officers that have deficiencies in knowledge of criminology, ICT, public relations, as well as just basic law, so that the officers may also acquaint themselves in the observance of human rights. So it is therefore urged that government should consider officers being trained not only for 6 months, but for at least a minimum of 12 years, so that they may get the full understanding, 12 months, sorry, so that they may get the full understanding of officer training. Madam Speaker, there is inadequate police stations and police posts in the country. Madam Speaker, the number of police stations and police posts has remained low. Most of the police stations and police presence is largely concentrated in the urban areas, leaving out most of the rural areas. Population has also grown in the rural areas. Crime has also grown in the rural areas. So we therefore urge government to consider, as a matter of urgency, construction of more police posts and more police stations, especially in rural parts of the country. Madam Speaker, the mechanism for awarding promotions in the Zambia police. Most of the long-serving officers, Madam Speaker, have remained stagnant in their ranks for a relatively long period of time. Yet newly recruited officers, Madam Speaker, have continued to rise in rank. You will find, Madam Speaker, that a mere superintendent that has been serving for over 10 years is now actually supervising inspectors, because due to the number of years served, they are more competent in the service than those that have newly been appointed. Madam Speaker, we therefore urge that the government reviews the mechanism used to promote police officers so that deserving long-serving officers can be promoted to higher ranks. Madam Speaker, the lack of modern equipment and material in the Zambia Police Service. Madam Speaker, the Zambia Police Service lacks modern equipment and material resources to manage highly sophisticated methods of detection, investigation, communication, and interrogation of crimes. Looking at the 21st century, crimes are now highly sophisticated, but most of the officers do not even have the basic equipment, even such as computers. They do not even at times have handcuffs so that they may execute their duties properly. The government, Madam Speaker, should procure modern equipment and materials which can enhance capacity for the Zambia police to detect, investigate, and interrogate modern and sophisticated crimes. Madam Speaker, we continue to urge the government to look into the plight of the Zambia police. The officers are in dire need. The morale is very low as they do not just have the mere basics, as alluded to by the chairperson of the committee. Madam Speaker, I second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further debate? The honorable member for Chama North.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for according me this opportunity to debate this particular important report on national security and foreign affairs to review the administration and operations of the Zambia Police Service. First and foremost, Madam Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to commend the chairperson of this particular committee, Brigadier General Morgan Stwara, and also Honorable Swongire Mwamba for seconding this particular motion. I have noticed, Madam Speaker, that the committee concentrated its local tours in towns along the line of rail. I think it is important that next time let the committee go to remote areas like Chama, Mitete, Chiengi, Shangombo, so that they are able to understand the challenges our police service has been confronted with. Because just going along the line of rail, we may not get the real challenges our police service has been facing. So I hope that next time they will be able to go to these remote areas. Madam Speaker, I'm alive to the fact that the Zambia Police Service is a very, very important state institution of good governance, which was created by an act of parliament to maintain law and order in this country. Madam Speaker, during the one-party state, we had the Zambia Police Force. But I think the Zambia Police has been transformed from the Zambia Police Force to the Zambia Police Service. And we want to ensure that the police service, as members of parliament, will continue to advocate for increased budgetary allocation, as the committee has noted that the Zambia Police is poorly funded. But at the same time, we want the police to discharge their duties diligently. So we are ready, as members of parliament, to support this particular state institution, and also on condition that the police should be professional. We don't want a compromised police service which is prone to be used by those in authority to suppress freedom and liberties. We don't want that. We want a police service which is going to be very, very professional and treat every citizen of this country as equal. However, Madam Speaker, we have seen a trend that our Zambia Police Service, our officers who are supposed to safeguard the human rights, they have been, in some instances, they have been engaged in abuse of human rights. People have been detained without being given bond for a long time, contrary to what the new Dawn government promised the people of this country. Madam Speaker, it is a fact that we even have members of parliament here who were denied bond, and if members of parliament are denied bond, what more with those vulnerable people in society? So I think it is important that our police service must be able to ensure that they work in line with the current democratic dispensation. The behavior of some of police officers, I think, leaves a lot to be desired. Just some few days ago, a youth by the name of Masamu Kumwenda was shot dead, a defenseless youth from Chama North, shot dead in Shwangandu. This person, he was not even posing a threat to the police, that police officer. So I think it is important that the Ministry of Home Affairs, Internal Security, should ensure that we inculcate a sense of discipline in these police officers. Madam Speaker, I am alive to the fact that, as the committee has noted, the police service faces enormous challenges. And coming from the trade union background, I am very, very particular about these challenges. We have heard about lack of promotion. People have been serving 15 years. Someone is a corporal, is a sergeant, lack of accommodation, poor salaries. And that's why I've been advocating for the formation of the police trade union so that it's able to represent the interests of police officers. And this is not strange. Some people may think that it's strange to have a police trade union. In South Africa, the police have a trade union. In America, the police have a trade union, including Germany and several other countries. But they don't go on strike. But those police unions make sure that they take into account the interests of their members. Infrastructure is true that the rural districts, they have very poor accommodation. I'll give, for example, Chama district is the oldest district, one of the oldest districts in this country. The police station there is a makeshift police station, not fit for human habitation. So it is our prayer that the government must put in place a roadmap to ensure that police stations, modern police stations, are constructed in all districts in this country. The issue of modernizing our police service is very, very critical. We need to empower our police service so that they are able to combat sophisticated crime, cybercrime, white-collar crime, which is very complicated. So I think it is important that more resources must be channeled towards that. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, I have also noticed that we are demotivating our police officers. We are appointing senior police officers, IG, deputy IG, people who have retired from the service. When we have got 7 police officers.
Order. The leader of opposition, please try as much as possible not to break the rules of the House. You pass in between the person who is debating and myself. The honorable member, you may continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was saying that we have seen the trend that we are demotivating serving police officers. We are appointing maybe IG, deputy IG from people who have retired from the service a long time ago. And surely, how do you expect to implement reforms in the Zambia police service? So I think to motivate these police officers, let's promote those who have been in the service for a long time because they are in touch with the modern reality on the ground. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, the report has also noticed that there is increase in safety of livestock, livestock. As a member of the Agriculture Committee, that is a very serious problem. We were in Chisamba, in Southern Province. I think our farmers are crying. So I want to appeal to the Ministry of Home Affairs and the Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock. I think they must work together, have concerted efforts, and put up a radical plan to ensure that we combat this safety of livestock. With those few remarks, I support this motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. I'm going to balance up. The next one is the honorable member for Nyimba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, thank you so much for giving an opportunity to the people of Nyimba to debate, to contribute on this very important topic.
Order, honorable member for Nyimba, there's an indication for a point of order. The honorable member for Mitete, what is your point of order?
Madam Speaker, thank you so much to have given me this opportunity, taking on standing order number 64. Is the honorable member of parliament for Kalabo Central, my brother, in order, Madam Speaker, not to congratulate the bride we have in this house, Honorable Munasha Bantu. Is he in order to keep it quiet yesterday and today? I seek your serious ruling, Madam Speaker.
I'm sure that was on a lighter note because we don't know whether maybe the honorable member for Kalabo Central did that on the actual day of the marriage. So the honorable member on the floor will continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me congratulate my honorable sister. Congratulations, Pastor. Yeah, Madam Speaker, looking at time, let me just touch a few things. First and foremost, the challenges facing the police service in Zambia is too immense to ignore. Madam Speaker, if you look at the rural parts of this country, if I'm not mistaken, police officers at the district level, they don't get more than 90 liters of fuel per month to operate. In a situation of areas like Mindilonga, Nyemba, these are vast constituencies, vast districts. How do you expect them to operate? How do you expect them to police out their criminals? It is very saddening. This is a straight appeal to the Minister of Home Affairs to start looking at it and see to it that this one is sorted out. Transport, yes, I agree. We are all constituencies are buying vehicles for police officers. But this are also not enough, Madam Speaker, because of some of the areas are so big to be policed by one police vehicle. Others may be small, but the challenges are so much that one police vehicle cannot manage to police the crime in those areas. So, Madam Speaker, if we look at this, it's time now that government should look at it and start funding police service with the respect the police service needs. Madam Speaker, I also give a challenge to the Home Affairs Minister that next time he's coming to Parliament, let him bring a beautiful budget which we are all going to support, because we don't need crime in our areas. Madam Speaker, as areas like us who are bordering other countries, the level of crime, it's something you cannot manage, because you've got people from two different countries speaking the same language, having the same name. So these are the things we're having. We need proper transport, not just one Land Cruiser we're expecting from CDF. This, we shouldn't even be talking about it, that we've managed to sort out transport problems. In addition to that, the poor condition of service for the police officers. Today, if we go and check the statistics in the country, we find that the police service is considered as one of the most corrupt institutions in this country. The reason is very simple. Somebody goes home with 2,000 kwacha, and this is the person you go and put at the roadblock to manage what is happening in the roadblock. This is the person you are sending to go and apprehend a criminal who is worth 1 million kwacha. What do you expect from that person? We should be, we should be speaking to these things, because this is what is happening. It's a reality out there. So my appeal to the minister, who I know is very capable of changing the narrative, so that next time you appreciate that when we had Honorable Jackie Mwimwa as the Minister of Home Affairs, he changed our salaries and he changed our condition of services. These are the things we need in the country. For the executive, that everyone who sits in the executive, there should be a record for you to see to it that people, when you go out from your position, they can still appreciate what you did for them. Madam Speaker, if we are not adequately funding the police service, if I'm not wrong, Madam Speaker, there are very few police at the district level. The minister in charge can correct me if I'm wrong. There is no funding at the district level. The district level might just be ending at the provincial level. Then we expect these people to do a professional jobs. I think we are just cheating ourselves. Because if we are not funding these people at that level, how do you expect them to administer complicated crimes we have in our districts? If you check at some of the police, let me look at
the office of my officer in charge, Madam Speaker. The last time I was there was not even a laptop, a desktop computer. It's not there. If they need to do a report, they have to go to a business center. A business center typing sensitive information. What are we doing as a country? Please, it's my appeal that next time to all members of our parliament here, that if our able Minister of Home Affairs want to bring a tangible budget, please let's reject his budget so that he can go back and correct that budget so that we can give our men in uniform what they deserve. Today, Madam Speaker, police officers, they don't even abuse their rights. It's because what we've given them, what the country has given them, it's not enough for them to work professionally. So if we need these people to work professionally, it's my appeal to this House. It's my appeal to us. Let's see to it that we understand our colleagues and help them what they need. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Sikongo.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity to add a voice to the motion on the floor, which is very important, talking about the administration and operations of the police service. To start with, I think I would like to thank the chairperson of the committee for ably moving the motion. The role of the police, I think, is really to ensure law and order in the country. And the challenges that they are facing are so numerous, and I sympathize with them. However, I would like to mention that the challenges of the police are a legacy issue, and they stem from way back. I would like to thank the New Dawn administration, I think, in the approach that it has taken in trying to bring normalcy in as far as the operation of the police service is concerned. When the police initially, before the reforms were done, it was used to be called the police force, and then it turned into a police service. I think the idea behind that was the fact that the policing had changed to the extent that it also required to take into consideration issues of human rights. And therefore, there was need to ensure that we moved from a force where I think the police used more of physical force to try and carry out their duties. But I think in doing that, there was actually need to also realize that the issue of the training that the chairperson and the second of the motion have emphasized became important. There was need to make sure that the police also had to be trained. They had to get adequate training to ensure that they were able to address the challenges that had come with modern criminality. However, the training still remained at 6 months. And I think as a result, we are seeing some of the inadequacies in our police officers. I would therefore concur with my colleagues to the extent that there is actually need, an urgent need, to ensure that the training of the police officers is enhanced in terms of the duration of their training, so that they're able to get adequate training that will help them to police or to do their job adequately. I was saying I would like to commend the New Dawn administration in its approach, its methodical approach, in doing everything, including how it is trying to approach the work of the police. Why am I saying this? From the word go, we have seen how this administration decided to make sure that all constituencies receive vehicles under the CDF, because the issue of transport is a critical issue for the police. And I don't know how a police officer or a police station that has got no vehicle can adequately carry out its duties, because they have to move day and night. And when you look at the challenge of transport, it's everywhere. And then you wonder, why didn't the other administrations in the past take this issue seriously? PF. And this big problem was left like this for a long time. So I'm commending the New Dawn administration for this timely decision to purchase vehicles. And I'm sure the police officers out there are really happy. And we are going to see them actually carry their work adequately. Not only that, we have also seen this new administration going to recruit police officers because the numbers are low. Certain police stations, police posts are manned by maybe 1 or 2 people, which is also not adequate to make sure that they carry out their duties properly. So, New Dawn administration and the Minister of Home Affairs, kudos to you for the approach that you are taking to make sure that the police officers do their work adequately. However, I've got a few issues that I would like to raise regarding the operations of the police. I've noticed recently that there's a trend that I'm seeing where I see police officers hiding in the corners of streets, trying to trap people or would be especially traffic officers. I think that trend should be stopped. You cannot have police officers leaving their homes to go for work. 5 of them, 10 of them are just hiding on a corner of a road to try and trap. That should be checked because this is where now the issues of corruption are coming in. If that money which they collect on those corners were to go to the government coffers, this country was going to be very rich. But unfortunately, the money is shared between the police officers and the government. I think that is an issue that needs to be addressed. The issue of stock theft is very critical, and I want to speak to this because in my constituents, this is a big challenge. Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, we need to find means and ways of trying to address this problem because it appears our youths are trying to use this as a source of earning income. I think let's increase on the stringent measures. The punishment should be increased, maybe to deter would-be offenders. Because right now it's like they are given maybe 1 year, 2 years, they come back again and re-offend. So I think let's try to increase so that our poor people who are depending on the livestock can at least continue to earn something from that business which they are doing. When it comes to housing, I want to appeal to the Minister of Home Affairs that please, as you consider this good approach that you are doing of rehabilitating and constructing staff houses for police officers, don't forget my people in Skongo. We have got a police station in Skongo with a lot of staff houses. Unfortunately, the staff houses are highly dilapidated to the extent that I sympathize with my officers in Skongo that they are living like they are in a village setup. Please, those houses were built in, I don't know, by Kenneth Kaunda, may he so rest in peace, and they have never seen any renovation of whatever kind. There's no running water right now. There is no electricity. We had to improvise and so on and so forth. Please, as you continue with your methodical approach of trying to solve problems which previous governments have failed to do, please remember the people of Skongo. With these few words, I would like to second the report. I thank you.
The Honorable Member for Mufulira.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. Let me start by also commending the chairperson who has moved this motion and indeed the committee for the work that they have done. This is a very important topic, Madam Speaker. All of us in one way or another are affected by the operations of the police. And so this topic, looking at the administration and operations of the Zambia police, cannot come at a better time than this. Madam Speaker, the previous speakers have talked about the challenges and the recommendations which the committee has made, and I just wish to pick on some of the recommendations and also the challenges which have come out in the report. The report is talking about promotions in the police service. Madam Speaker, in every organization, it is the wish, especially of new joiners, to know their career progression. But what this report is telling us is that the mechanism for promotions is not very clear in the Zambia police. People staying in the same ranks for so many years, the juniors come in, spend a few years, and they rise up in the ranks. I think that the report is very clear, and the ministry needs to address this issue. And more challenging, or more worrying, Madam Speaker, is also what the report has mentioned with regard to the women police officers, who the report is highlighting that they get promotions you know, by you know, giving in to sexual advances by the senior police officers. This is very worrying, and if it is not, you know, addressed through outlining the promotion mechanism, it will continue at the expense of more deserving and more hardworking police officers. Madam Speaker, I also want to talk about the conditions of service. It has been mentioned already, and a lot of people label the police as corrupt. Why? When we look at all the security wings in this country, the police are the least remunerated in terms of the salaries that they get at the end of the month and other conditions. So for me, looking at these conditions of service, first of all, I want to talk about housing. The previous government did a lot of investment in changing the housing conditions of the police officers, and we are able to see. So what I want to urge the current administration is to continue with that policy. More especially in towns, for example, in Mufrira, we were beneficiaries of the new housing units for the police. But we still have another section of the police who live in the old compounds, in the cambas. And so you can see the demotivation, because everyone wishes to move out of those colonial police houses into the modern houses that were constructed. So this was a very important exercise, and without trivializing, I would like to urge, you know, the current administration to look into the housing for the police officers to ensure that no police officer continues to live in those old colonial houses, but everyone must be upgraded to ensure that, you know, they live in safety and comfort. The other thing, Madam Speaker, talking about the conditions of service, the report brings out the qualifications. There are police officers who have used their own resources to upgrade the qualifications without even being sponsored by the police service or the government. But they remain in their position even after, you know, graduating with their newly acquired qualifications. Obviously, for one to seek to upgrade their qualifications, they are hoping that when they bring those papers to the powers that be, they expect either to be changed from the department to the department which fits with their newly acquired qualifications. But that is not happening according to the report, and it's very important to consider, especially that someone used their hard-earned money to pay for their own qualifications. When they bring to the authorities that be, it is only good that the employers can do, correspond, respond to that by putting them in the correct department that fits the qualifications, that they have. Madam Speaker, let me now move on to, because we are looking at the administration and operations of the police. We also have instances, Madam Speaker, where people have been taken into detention, they are able to walk, their health is physically okay, and then you just find that that person, suffers beatings, and they give testimonies that those beatings were administered by the police while they were in custody. We have cases like that, Madam Speaker, I can give even in Mufrira, where the police go to pick up the suspect. In the process, the suspect is brutally beaten to the extent that they can't even stand on their own, basically paralyzed. Now, what I'm saying is we have the Police Public Complaints Commission. This commission needs to decentralize, because the people outside of Lusaka may not even know about the existence of this Police Public Complaints Commission. Why? Because they are just found here in Lusaka. When someone in Mufrira or someone in Chipata or in Irundazi wants to lodge their complaint, it is at their expense to look for this commission and lodge their complaint. In the end, they end up going to the same police officers who inflicted the dehumanization, who inflicted the pain. And what happens? And Madam Speaker, generally, people are scared of facing the police. So they end up nursing their injuries, they end up nursing their sick who suffered at the hands of the police. So we need to bring the Police Public Complaints Commission closer to the people, away from Lusaka, so that there can be checks and balances on the excesses of the police. Madam Speaker, the report also talked about modernization, the police being equipped with modern equipment. I want to link this also with the training that is given to the police. Most of the times, most of the officers, once they graduate after 6 months, as we have already read in the report, that is it. They will spend years and years working in the service without retraining. Crime, Madam Speaker, has evolved. The criminals have advanced in the technology and in the techniques that they use. Therefore, it is important that even the police officers in service training focuses on equipping them with the modern techniques of fighting crime, because criminality has also advanced. Further to that, even the equipment, we know the police are taught to refrain, unless in self-defense. But we need modern equipment to ensure that even in self-defense, the police officers can easily have a teaser or other equipment that they can use to maim or disable, the suspects or criminals in pursuit of arrest. Without that, Madam Speaker, we see that the police, still use the old tactics and they are outplayed by the criminals who advance. So modernization in terms of training and in terms of equipment is also important. With these words, Madam Speaker, I support the report and thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members, due to lack of time, this is how far we can go. Let me apologize. I've seen that you've read the report, which is very good, including the Minister of Home Affairs, who is going to respond to the issues that have been raised and those that are in the report. So at this juncture, allow me to call upon the Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security to respond to the issues and the report as well.
Madam Speaker, I wish to thank the chairperson of the Committee on National Security and Foreign Affairs and his committee members on the work done to review the administration and operations of the Zambia Police Service. Madam Speaker, the report highlights the administrative and operational challenges the Zambia Police Service is facing and has made various recommendations on measures to improve the situation. Madam Speaker, the report of the committee is very comprehensive and it has highlighted a number of pertinent issues which we as government have accepted, and we shall proceed to work on those issues that have been raised by the committee. Madam Speaker, government is committed to improving the administration and operations of the Zambia Police Service, including the welfare of the officers, in order to make the Zambia Police Service effectively contribute to the provision and maintenance of internal security in the country. To this effect, government has, among others, put in place the following measures. 1, construction of infrastructure and enhancement of technological development. The government is putting in place modern infrastructure and modern equipment which are aimed at improving the administration and operations of the Zambia Police Service. These developments include countrywide expansion and approval of the Zambia Police Service structure and approval of the establishment of the Air Wing. I also wish to inform this August House that Zambia Police Service, through my ministry, has bought boats for use in areas which cannot be accessed by road. We have bought a number of boats which we have already distributed. Madam Speaker, the government of the Republic of Zambia did construct 1,500 units, which are complete and have been handed over, and we're in the process once we finalize discussions with the Minister of Finance to construct another 2,000 housing units for the Zambia Police Service. We have also increased the establishment of the Zambia Police Service from 27,000 to over 36,000 posts. And these will go a long way in curing the issue of post IDs, which has been causing a lot of problems and making the police service appear not to be looking at the interests of the officers. The government has also continued to construct police stations and police posts throughout the country. And we have also engaged various constituencies in the country to also support us in the provision of police service, police posts. And I'm happy to report that a number of constituencies in the country have responded positively. A number of police stations and posts have been constructed. We are also increasing the budget allocation to the Zambia Police Service. The Zambia Police Service budget allocation has steadily been on the increase, with a notable increase of 35% as provided for in the 2023 national budget. We are aware, however, that even this increase of 35% is not adequate to meet the challenges of the Zambia Police Service. I look forward, when the next budget is being considered, that my colleagues will support our recommendations to increase the budget reallocation further for the Zambia Police Service. Madam Speaker, I also want to state that the government has continued to recruit more police officers to support the administration and operations of the Zambia Police Service. A total number of 2,000 police officers are scheduled to be recruited in the year 2023. Madam Speaker, I also want to thank the members of this House who have supported the procurement of vehicles for the police for all the 156 constituencies. And I'm happy to report, Madam Speaker, that the procurement has reached an advanced stage, and I'm being assured that within the next 1 month, the first batch of the motor vehicles will be available and will be distributed to the various constituencies. Madam Speaker, government is desirous to have a professional police service. It is in the interest of all of us, members of parliament and members of the public, to have a police service that is responsive and professional. Nobody, I repeat, nobody would condone unprofessionalism among police officers. We have embarked on a program to retrain most of these police officers. I'm aware, as it has been stated, that some of the police officers we have never gone for retraining, which is a very unfortunate situation. We have embarked on a program of ensuring that we retrain. I also want to state, Madam Speaker, that I don't agree with the sentiment that has been expressed that most of the police officers who are female are rising in their ranks because of compromising their social status. That is not true. Most of the women police officers are very professional and hardworking. I would urge all of us to support the female police officers. They work under very difficult conditions. It is our duty as leaders to pay particular attention pertaining to the welfare of our female officers. I also urge all of us who are working with these officers to make recommendations pertaining to these officers who are female to be upgraded and recommended for promotion. There are very few senior police officers currently serving. I urge all of us not to have that stereotype way of looking at women. They are professionals. They are doing their best. They are the most hardworking female officers. Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I would like to wholeheartedly accept the recommendations that have been made by the ABLE Committee of Madam Speaker. We will take into account all the issues that have been raised by the honorable members of this House who have debated. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support the report.
Thank you. The honorable member for Kaoma Central wind-up debate.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I think allow me to thank all the honorable members of Parliament who have debated this afternoon. I also want to thank the Honorable Minister for the very positive response given, not to reignite the debate, but I just want to remind the members that when we are dealing with matters of security, I think we should handle them with the care that it deserves. The problems in police, they are big. The problems in police are not new. Like one member, the Honorable Member for Skongo mentioned, they are maybe what we may term a legacy issue. But I think there comes a time when we should break these legacy issues and start from somewhere. The problems need our attention, and as honorable members of Parliament, I just want to appeal that I think ours comes in supporting the budget for our policemen. We should not be proud to be able to hear our police being called the most corrupt organization in our country. I think that is not the best. The police are there to look after all of us, and they can only do so when their conditions are good, when they are comfortable, when they have transport, when they have stationery, when they have the fuels. And indeed, I want to urge everybody to ensure that starting with the next budget, maybe we can make a change by allocating our police service enough resources so that we can change this history, bad history that is prevailing today. Otherwise, Madam Speaker, I want to thank once again everyone who has debated, and I thank you most sincerely. Thank you.
Thank you. I put the question. The question is that this House do adopt the report of the Committee on National Security and Foreign Affairs on the review of the administration and operations of the Zambia Police Service for the second session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Friday, 9th June 2023. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary say no. The ayes have it, and the question is resolved in the affirmative. Notice of motion. The Honorable Member for Kaoma Central.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that this House do adopt the report of the Zambian delegation to the 13th Plenary Assembly of the Forum of Parliaments for the International Conference of the Great Lakes Region, held from 27th March to 1st April 2023 in Juba, Republic of South Sudan, laid on the table of the House on 6th June 2023.
Is the motion seconded?
It's seconded, Madam Speaker.
Seconded by the Honorable Member for Bangweulu. The question is that this House do adopt the report of the Zambian delegation to the 13th Ordinary Session of the Plenary Assembly of the Forum of Parliaments of the Member States of the International Conference on the Great Lakes region held in Juba, South Sudan from 27th March to 1st April 2023 for the second session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 6th June 2023. Any debate? The Honorable Member for Kaoma Central.
Madam Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 146 of the National Assembly Standing Orders of 2021, I rise to give a statement on the proceedings of the 13th Plenary Assembly of the Forum of Parliaments of the International Conference on the Great Lakes Region, which was held from 27th March to 1st April 2023 in Juba, Republic of South Sudan. Madam, the Deputy Speaker, Honorable Moses Moyo, represented Madam Speaker as leader of the Zambian delegation. Madam Speaker, for the information of the House, the Forum of the Parliaments of the International Conference of the Great Lakes Region was established on 4th December 2008 in Kigali, Republic of Rwanda, with the purpose of promoting, keeping, and reinforcing peace and security in the Great Lakes region. This desire was expressed by the heads of state and government in the Security, Stability, and Development Pact of the Great Lakes region, which was signed on 15th December 2006 in Nairobi, Kenya, and came into force on 21st June 2008. The Speakers of Parliaments of the member states of the Great Lakes region, mandated by their respective parliaments, stressed the point that democratically elected parliaments could play a major role in the promotion of peace, security, stability, mutual understanding, and friendship among the African people, as well as solidarity, brotherhood, and good neighborliness amongst the states of the region. One of the major roles of the forum, therefore, is to engage parliamentary diplomacy in contributing to peace by putting in place mechanisms for the better implementation of the pact, protocols, and programs of action outlined in the pact. Madam Speaker, the House may wish to know that the forum comprises 12 member states, namely the Republic of Angola, Republic of Burundi, Central African Republic, Republic of Congo, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Republic of Kenya, the Republic of Rwanda, Republic of Sudan, the Republic of South Sudan, the United Republic of Tanzania, the Republic of Uganda, and indeed the Republic of Zambia. Madam Speaker, the theme for this year's plenary assembly was the role of parliamentary diplomacy in conflict resolution in the Great Lakes region. Since its inception, the forum has been instrumental in spearheading discourse on peace, security, and stability in the region, which has over the years witnessed a number of bloody wars, starvation, economic and social inequalities, as well as religious strife and political turmoil. The conference was officially opened by the second Vice President of the Republic of Sudan, Professor James Wani Iga. In his address, the Vice President indicated that the 13th Plenary Assembly was certainly a historical and memorable one, considering that it was taking place in South Sudan, which meant that the Right Honorable Jema Nunu Kumba, Speaker of the Transitional Legislative Assembly of South Sudan, would assume presidency of the forum. Indeed, it was a great occasion for the people of South Sudan because this is one of the first major meetings they were holding. As you know, they are a new nation. The Vice President indicated that the Great Lakes region consisted of a complex network of political, and the economic interactions of countries in East and Central Africa with implications on peace, security, and governance. Given the interrelationship among the conflicts within the region, peace-building activities had taken a regional approach rather than focusing on a single country, which had its own shortcomings. The Vice President went on to explain that the regional focus approach had often ignored the power of building relationships and involving local actors to address the root causes of the conflict. Madam Speaker, let me report that the resolutions of the security and humanitarian situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Central African Republic, the South Sudan, and Sudan, which were made at the 13th Plenary Assembly, were presented to the chairperson of the Summit of the Heads of State of the Member States of the International Conference on the Great Lakes region. His Excellency, the President of Angola, on the 22nd May 2023, by Right Honorable Jema Nunu Kumba, sitting President of the Forum and the Speaker of the Transitional National Legislative Assembly of the Republic of South Sudan. And I was privileged, Madam, to represent you at this high-level meeting, for which I remain grateful. Madam Speaker, in his acceptance remarks, the President of Angola stated that it was high time African problems were resolved by homegrown African solutions, and that other partners should only complement African efforts. He went further to state that the resolution of conflicts should not be left to the executive alone. Rather, parliaments in the region needed to rise to the occasion and work with the executive in their respective countries to bring lasting peace in the region. The President undertook to table the resolutions presented to him before his counterparts, heads of state in the region, that is the 12 mentioned countries, during the summit he would call in the near future in order to chart the way forward. Madam Speaker, let me conclude by indicating Zambia will host the 14th Plenary Assembly, and therefore our own Right Honorable Madam Speaker will assume the presidency of this forum until the 15th Plenary Assembly, when she will hand over to the Speaker of the country that will host it. On this note, we will ask for support from this Parliament to ensure that this conference is a success. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you. Does the seconder wish to speak now or later?
Now, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Bangweulu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to second the motion that has been ably moved by the delegation leader. Let me begin from the onset to inform this House that during the 13th Plenary Assembly, there were elections held for the 5 committees of the conference. And Zambia, as I'm speaking now, won 2 important positions during the elections. The Committee on Peace and Security, we managed to scoop a vice presidency, which is held by the General Stwala, MP. And we also managed to scoop another committee vice chairperson or vice president, which was won by Honorable Sylvester Sefule, MP. The Committee on Democracy and Good Governance. And Honorable Fred Chatila is a committee member for the Committee on Economic Development. And Honorable Merishana Piri is also a committee member on the Committee on Gender and Children Affairs. The MP, Honorable Kasandwe for Bangweulu constituency, is also a committee member on a committee on humanitarian and social services. Secondly, Madam Speaker, as the mover said, I would like to emphasize the point that Zambia is going to host the 14th plenary assembly next year between March and April. So it is very important and critical for Parliament to prepare. And how are we going to prepare is to ensure that the committee members attend all the remaining committee meetings that will be held.
Order, honorable members.
In order for us to prepare adequately, it is very important that the members attend the remaining committee meetings that will be held between now and December, so that we prepare adequately. Because, I mean, how would you host an event when you have not been part of the committee meetings? So it's important for this Parliament to ensure that they find resources to ensure that the members of Parliament attend the remaining committee meetings. Another important event is the elections that are going to, the general elections that are going to be held in Congo DRC, which the members should endeavor to attend and monitor. And looking at time, the last point I want to make, Honorable Speaker, we've learned a lesson. Looking at the conflict in the Great Lake nations, once you lose peace, it's very difficult to maintain it. So, as parliamentarians, we should always endeavor to ensure that we promote unity and peace amongst ourselves, especially in the manner we debate in this House. Because, Madam Speaker, I assure you, conflict starts in the mouth. The way you speak, the way you interact, that is where conflict starts. So, as I conclude, I just want to urge the members of Parliament that we should always endeavor to ensure that we maintain the peace that we have today. Because once we lose it, it's very difficult to maintain it. With those few remarks, I would propose to second the motion, Madam Speaker.
The honorable member for Shiwangandu.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to make a few comments in support of the adoption of the committee of your delegation assigned to the Great Lakes Conference. Madam Speaker, I would like to start by commending your delegation and congratulating them for the positions they've been elected to during the plenary, the 13th ordinary plenary session, which was held in South Sudan. And we urge you to utilize the positions that have been elected to bring a paradigm shift in the way we are managing issues of the Great Lakes Conference. Madam Speaker, it's just sad that this conference was being held at a backdrop of the escalated conflicts in the Sudan Republic. And we want to see going forward, Madam Speaker, that Parliament, as recognized by the articles of the Great Lakes Conference, which recognize the Forum of Parliamentarians, becomes a center stage of conflict resolution. And we would want to see this opportunity we have as Zambian Parliament to host the upcoming 14th plenary.
Order, honorable member. As the time is 19:10 hours, I interrupt the proceedings and debate stands adjourned. Day for resumption of debate.
Tomorrow, Madam Speaker.
Debate to resume tomorrow. Her Honor the Vice President, adjournment.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the House do now adjourn.
As no notice of an item for debate on the motion of adjournment of the House has been received, I put the question. The question is that the House do now adjourn. Any debate? Any objection? The question is agreed to. The House is now adjourned.
Adjourned, and now we take a look at business that has been considered from the time business resumed today at 14:13 hours. When business resumed, Madam Speaker did make an announcement in which she recognized the presence in the public gallery the pupils and teachers from St. Raphael's School in Livingston. Madam Speaker warmly welcomed the visitors.
After that announcement, Madam Speaker did permit the Minister of Infrastructure to make a ministerial statement on the state of roads in Northwestern Province and plans that the government of the Republic of Zambia has in improving the roads in the province. And so this is in line with a matter of urgent public importance raised by Petauke, Member of Parliament, regarding a road traffic accident that occurred in Northwestern Province.
And the Minister did state in his statement that an assessment by the Road Development Agency indicates that 80% of the core road network requires immediate improvement and maintenance, as it is in a poor condition and is deteriorating at an alarming rate.
The Minister did present the programs that will be implemented in the road sector for the period 2023 to 2026 in Northwestern Province in terms of road rehabilitation, periodic road maintenance and road upgrading to bituminous standard.
He said the roads within and connecting the province would be prioritized for development using public-private partnership, and these include the upgrading to bituminous standard of 125 kilometers of the Solwezi to Kipushi Road and construction of the one-stop border post at Kipushi border.
Also on the list is the upgrading of bituminous standard of the 100-kilometer Lumwana West to Kabimba Road en route to Kolwezi in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
He further went on to say the upgrading to bituminous standard of the landless corner via Mumbwa to Kasempa Road.
And the Minister did say that government is currently implementing the improved road connectivity project with the support of the World Bank, and the World Bank has made available financial support amounting to 200 million United States dollars for the project, and the Northwestern Province has been allocated a total of 516 kilometers of roads to be rehabilitated.
He said the rehabilitation of the 262 kilometers in Manyinga and Kabompo district has been awarded to MESA, and works will commence at the end in June 2003. The roads to be covered include part of Manyinga-Mwinilunga Road, covering a stretch of 108.1 kilometers from Manyinga to Kazezi, the 34.1 kilometer Mundanya-Kalyangandu Road.
And also on the list is the 31.9 kilometer Kafungu Kalyangandu Road and the 87.5 kilometer Kabompo Kayombo Road. And others include the 44.5 kilometer Kelongwa Road, the 93.2 kilometer Kelongwa to Nyoka Road, the 24.1 kilometer Munyambala Road, the 16 Munyambala Washimanga Road.
And others do include the 11.9 kilometer Jivudu Road, the 22.1 kilometer Kasanga Road, the 11 kilometer Kakilufia compound to Nyampa Fuka Road, and the 15.5 Mumfumbwe boarding school to Kaombo Community School, and the 15.7 kilometer Kawama Road.
So those are some of the roads, including many other roads that will be rehabilitated in Northwestern Province. After that ministerial statement, the House went on to consider question 288. That's a question for oral answer, understanding order number 74. And this question did come from Mr. Miutu of Kalabo constituency. He did ask the Minister of Energy a question in two parts, whether the government has any plans to construct an oil pipeline between Namibia and Zambia. And in response, the Energy Minister did say that government, through the Ministry of Energy, does have intentions of constructing an oil pipeline between Namibia and Zambia. And they did say that a memorandum of understanding between the two countries was signed on the 6th of October 2022, and the project will cost $15 billion. In the B part of the question, the Member of Parliament wanted to find out when the construction works will commence, and the Minister did say that construction works will commence in mid-2026 and will be completed in mid-2029.
Question 289 did come from Mr. Elias Musonda, who is Chimbamilonga Member of Parliament. He did ask the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development whether the government has any plans to rehabilitate the following roads in Chimbamilonga Parliamentary Constituency: Roma Kakoma Mpandi Kabompo Road, Kananda Katele Road, Kampinda Tenof Kashikishi, Tupele Mikose Road, Mwewe Munwacholwe Road, Chilemba Kapisha Road, and Katwatwa Banda Road. The minister did respond that government does not have immediate plans to rehabilitate these roads. And in Part B, if so, when the plans will be implemented, the minister did respond that, alluding to his answer in Part A, there are no plans that have been implemented, as in put in place, as into when they'll be implemented. And in Part C, what the estimated cost of the project is, this question did fall off. In Part D, what the estimated time frame for the completion of the project is, the minister did respond that government is highly constrained with many other projects, and as of now, they are not taking any new contracts. Part E, if there are no such plans, why? Well, this question did fall off, given to the answer that the minister gave in Part D.
Absolutely, and so after consideration of those two questions for oral answer, understanding order number 74, Mr. Kangombe, who's Kamfinsa Member of Parliament, did move a private member's motion. It being a Wednesday, it's set aside for private members' motions, and so the motion was that this House urges the government to actualize the provision of health services under the National Health Insurance Scheme to the poor and vulnerable. And this motion was seconded by Nkana Member of Parliament, Mr. Bino Mpundu. And when the question was put, the motion was agreed to, meaning it has gone through, it has passed.
And after the consideration of that private member's motion, the House went on to consider the first report. This is adopt the report of the Committee on National Security and Foreign Affairs. This motion was moved by Brigadier General Stwala, retired, who is also Kaoma, a Member of Parliament, urging that this House do adopt the report of the Committee on National Security and Foreign Affairs on the review of the administration and operations of the Zambia Police Service for the second session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Friday, 9th June 2023. We saw quite a number of members of Parliament contribute to this motion, and this motion has also been adopted.
Brigadier General Sitwala also presented or moved another motion that the House to adopt the report of the Zambian delegation to the 13th Ordinary Session of the Plenary Assembly of the Forum of Parliaments of the Member States of the International Conference on the Great Lakes Region, held in Juba, South Sudan, from the 27th of March to the 1st of April 2023 for the second session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 6 June 2023, and the motion is being seconded by Kasama Central Member of Parliament, Ms. Simongile Mwamba. And at the time that the House was just about to adjourn, on the floor of the House was Shuangandu Member of Parliament, Mr. Stephen Kampyongo, adding his voice to this particular debate, which resumes tomorrow. And so that's the business that has been transacted on the floor. It's been a long day, Taza. That's the business
really has
that's
been
been
a long
transacted
day.
on the floor of the House. Would like to thank you so much for your time. From all of us here, it's bye-bye and good night.
stars of Zambezi Magic are perfectly aligned. It's a gamble for stardom on the all-new 10 Tamanga Street. Bold steps push Zuba to a league above all. Lindiwe plays puppet master as her devious plan unfolds. With the hope of reconciliation, Shimumbi returns to Vanamumbi. Witness Uncle Imbani's hustle and bustle for the upper life.